Okay, I show 7 p.m. Welcome, everybody. And tonight is April 8th. It's the first regular village board meeting here in the village of Red Hook. And by some rules and regulations, this is our reorganization meeting. And when newly elected officers take their positions on the bench again or on the village board. So tonight we thought we'd kick it off with a little relatively informal opening session where our clerk will swear in our justice, who will then be duly authorized to swear in myself and two trustees who were reelected. So while we move ahead, Cindy, do you want to read something? And I'll hold the mic while you're close to the judge.
Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jonah Treebosser,
I, Jonah Treebosser,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the Justice of the Village of Red Hook
of the office of the Justice of the Village of Red Hook
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Now it's my turn. I'd ask Trustee Brent Kowalczyk to come up. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brent Kowalczyk,
I, Brent Kowalczyk,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of trustee of the Village of Red Hook
the duties of trustee of the Village of Red Hook
according to the very best of my ability.
according to the very best of my ability.
Congratulations, Brent.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Mr. J. Trapp, sir.
Be my pleasure.
Jay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, J. Trapp,
I, Jay Trapp,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of trustee
the duties of trustee
of the Village of Red Hook
of the Village of Red Hook
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Jay.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Mr. Mayor,
I'm here.
please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Edward Blundell,
I, Edward Blundell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the mayor of the Village of Red Hook
the duties of the mayor of the village of Red Hook
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, Ed.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Get him fast, Eddie.
All right. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jonah.
Clerk Sorella and Justice Treebosser, for kicking off a new year. And like we all know, we had the election on March 19th, and we have the same board reconstituted, which I think is a good thing, meaning we have a very collegial working group, and we all work hard for the best and the betterment of our residents, and we intend to keep that going. So with that in mind, one of the nastier things we get to do is work on a budget every year. We've been working on it for a while, but I think what we can do, we have a public hearing here tonight set for 7 p.m. on the budget. We're running a little behind, but our regular folks are there, and I think they'll work with us for a bit. But why don't we open the meeting formally, we'll do the pledge and some minute approval, and then we'll get to the public hearing. We can organize a few things here while we're doing that. Okay, so let's rise and we'll pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jonah, would you mind, there's a front hatch on my projector machine there, just go from closed to open there on the very front? Yeah, thanks. I'll get that, yeah. So anyway, as far as The minutes, we were relatively busy in March. We circulated some minutes for March 11, March 14, and March 21. I reviewed them and they've been circulated. Were there any other additions, alterations, or corrections? Hearing none, I would move that we accept those 3 sets of minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, why don't we move then to the public hearing part of the night? Handed out was the tentative budget, and the board will all have their versions of that. Just a little bit of explanation before we go into it. The way village law works is the mayor is the chief budget officer, and the treasurer is the chief fiscal officer. And the way we develop our budgets here in the village of Red Hook is I sit with the board, we look at past data from prior years, actual costs and experiences of revenue and costs, and try to project what's going forward. One unique thing about village timelines is that you might recall the state of New York just passed its budget, I think Sunday, March 31st, sometime in the end of the weekend day there, Sunday. And so we have to have our tentative budget filed by March 20th. So there's always a little bit of a non-overlapping dismay period there where we're not quite certain what the state's going to come through with. And this year, one of the key components was, you might have all heard out in the audience that they're looking at taking away our AIM money. It's an Assistance to Municipality Fund, which is relatively significant for us. And to know if we're having it or not was important. The good news is they reconfigured it in some way that we still get it, but it'll be driven apparently by a new, stronger sales tax on internet sales that'll be collected by the counties in the state, and it'll be rerouted. But either way, it's guaranteed we'll be getting it. My understanding is that the counties will collect it, send it to the state, and then they'll send it to us. So we were able to keep that placed in our budget, that one line there. A couple other things. We did get some news. We are selling more space, renting more space up on one of our water tower there to a new cell phone carrier. So that was projecting some new revenue, which is good. We saw a slight uptick in our assessed value base, but really not as much as we thought we would see. I think we'll have to wait for that next year. Some new construction on certain streets and different things that don't seem to have totally appeared in our assessed valuation base. One reason to run for reelection this time was the building we're sitting in was renovated just about 13 years ago now with a 15-year bond. So I think it's the year 2021, which is 2 years from now. About $235,000 comes off the village budget as far as principal and interest for this building, which to be mayor when that happens is a godsend. To be on the board too. Yeah, we don't have that money in our pocket today, of course, but you'll see in our budget, we budgeted about $235, $240 to pay that principal and interest. But those are some of the highlights. And what I was showing just on the screens now, and I can go to some other screens, but this is on the big picture. Folks that come to our meetings regularly and the board know this is the fund balance, and it's something the New York State Controller looks at and something we've worked hard to recover and show us some positive growth here. It's probably hard for camera and things, but in about the year 2012, we started bringing it up, and that's when most of the members on this board came into office. And since then, we've worked hard and brought it up. And when you see this little tailing off here, that was deliberate steps taken by this board. We were buying some relatively large capital equipment, like a brand-new large-scale highway plow truck and things, where we decided instead of borrowing a lot of the money, we would work with our fund balance. So right now, our fiscal year ends in May, end of May 31, so we don't have a number for the year we're not quite finished with yet, but we'll have that in probably 3 or 4 months. Yeah, that. But what I like to show the public and all of us is this is a very good trend, and what it boils down to is a lot of effort at budgeting and then a lot of effort at trying to maintain the budget within the lines, trying to keep the various departments in line with what we budgeted. It's not always possible, but we try to manage it and maintain it. For instance, tonight we're out working on a broken water main. Somebody might notice they had a little less pressure in their house. I'm sure it's fixed now, but it's an unforeseen expense, but we do budget for those things, but we can only predict how many might break. This year, I think we're okay, though, with the water budget in that regard. So with that in mind, the board has the tentative budget, and this is another technical talking point. Like we said, I have to submit the tentative budget by the March 2021 timeframe there. That's out to the board and to the public. And then we have made some changes to it since then, which are allowable. When I say that, we did get confirmed, we got the AAM money, and we did get some new confirmation of two other revenue stream sources. One was higher than we projected sales tax recovery. And I'm thinking that with more internet sales taxability on the counties, it could be a higher number. We won't go overboard with it, but I've projected some increase there. And Cindy got the newest, I guess it would be called the billings paperwork for the franchises for Spectrum. It was a concept we talked about at one of our meetings. Spectrum is a cable company provider. By certain rules, we can get franchise fees from Spectrum. And lo and behold, the projection was $43,000, and we had budgeted 36. A few things like that came in where we were able to move things. And I'll put some of them on the screen in a moment. But what you have in your packets is what was circulated as the draft tentative budget. I think what now I would like to do with that description is formally open the public comment, and I would ask for a motion to do so. I guess I should call it the public hearing, to be correct. So moved, and is there a second? All in favor? Okay, so we'll show it opening at 7:11. And I don't know if you had a chance to look through anything. We have some regular attendees who tend to,
I had 15 minutes.
okay.
Question, on the last column, it says increase, decrease. But you got minuses, and I think it should be pluses, and pluses, and it should be minuses.
You're right. They are, it's an inverse, so a negative number is a negative development, which means the budget went up in that area as far as, if you're looking at expense. It's the way the spreadsheet formula works. I'll show, let's see. Let's see.
Increase should be minus, so you
Yeah.
could be red, it should be colored, you kind of help that out a little bit. What's the difference communication? That went up a lot.
No, it should be a negative, it should be, I think it's going down. Is it 2,500 now? I'll go and look at my screen here.
Yeah, okay, it went down, but it's showing.
Yeah, we're doing a new website, and the past 2 years, we were budgeting to buy our new website. But once it's bought, we just have the maintenance costs. So I think it's, if I remember, it's like $2,500 now.
Well, on the rental on the cell towers, it went up because you got more people, but you're showing a minus 22 and plus 25.
What was that for?
Cell tower.
On the cell tower,
Oh.
the rental. It went up because you got, more people there, but it was minus 22, it's kind of like saying, like taking a loss or something, you're actually gaining at the income side.
Well, I think what you would do, just put in your head, it's a spreadsheet situation. If you look at, let's say on franchises, on revenue, line A, 1170, the prior year we budgeted 36,000. This year we're budgeting 42,000. The spreadsheet we have, George, what it's designed to do, if you could look on the wall for a minute.
The franchises are the same on this sheet.
Yeah, but that's what I said, this is mine post-tentative budget. When Cindy got some more franchise information since March 21st. What this spreadsheet does is, the formula is designed to calculate automatically the tax levy. And then this is the overall increase in the tax levy. So it's a negative development. We tagged tax increases as a negative development. So we're saying prior year budget to this year budget, it's another $29,000 we're looking to take from the tax levy. So it's nothing new this year. It's just the way our formulas were created. What you want to do is look at the prior year and the current year. What did you mention? Cell tower rentals? Do you have a line number on that?
2240.
Four from the bottom of the page, I don't know.
2240, did you say?
There it is, right there at the bottom, very bottom, Ed, right there.
2440, okay. Yeah, so this was our prior year's rent, and we're gonna be making another 22,500 rent on the cell tower.
And
Well, we're-
was there an explanation on why the gifts and donations went from 1,000 to 5,000? And did you tell me already, and did I forget?
Okay, let's see.
$4,000 difference there.
Yeah, let me
Somebody's
just,
going to give us $4,000 this year.
That's for
it could be,
show, right?
we're doing a public art space, and we've already got pledged $5,000 toward that architect's project. I think that's,
Yeah, it's right there, 45.
yeah. Yeah, we've already got pledged $5,000 toward that. For the board up here, what I'm looking at, I'm calling this mayor post-tentative budget. And where I've got yellow are the things that I described that changed. So from your tentative budget, now we actually brought in 106,000 in sales tax revenue this year. We had budgeted 91. So we're saying, not gamble the whole 106, and there might be internet on top of that, but pick 104. Franchises, Cindy actually got that letter we talked about. That's in the revenue side. Yeah, this is something, we're having some trouble with one of our highway garages, the old garage. There's an out-of-control fuel bill over there we have to work on. In our IT department, the controller's office is recommending we do some more to do what they call intrusion protection, which is not just being able to detect bad email attachments. We've had our IT guy trying to price it, so we think we have to spend some more money there. We're not committed that doing it will actually ever help, but it's something we have to budget for. Looks like one thing too, since the last meeting in yellow, we used to budget 2,000 for getting rid of our brush and leaves. The farmer we take it to, under DEC rules, can't burn it anymore. So we're gonna split a tub grinder, is what I'm asking here to do.
There's also a healthy uptick in the maintenance of streets.
On personnel services. Did I go past it? Let's see.
Yeah,
See.
it's just up a little ways,
Yeah, this,
20,000.
yeah, I think that should show also as that in your tentative budget. What we found are two things. We moved one of our part-timers to full-time, and then that picked up some money there, and then they just seem busier. I don't know, it's like, I can't quite, I'm trying to match, we have some raises in the union contracts, but it wouldn't be that much of a percentage. But we're just trying to offset the normal raise and the actual hours being worked. And, in the big picture, what this is showing is, we have a formula, we have a 2% tax cap, and then we have it's called a carryover, where the treasurer and our controller go into the New York State Controller's website, and they pull data across, and we can stay within our cap and be at a tax levy of 1.274 million, and we're 1.252 up here. And this is, our last year tax rate was $6.13 per thousand. This is projecting with all the formulas embedded to be $6.28. That's a 15 cent per per 1,000 increase. So this is keeping us within the cap. We believe we can pay all our bills with this. And, but like I said, the one I have on my screen is one we'll have to go through River Drive Yellow and just note those changes and embed them in the final budget. As far as the board's responsibilities, we have to have a final budget due by May 1, or our tentative budget becomes our budget. I'd rather be more accurate and have it done. And this is telling me we can do all this and stay within the tax cap. So we did pass that ability to exceed the tax cap a couple months ago. We will need to rescind that, and that takes, it's actually a local law change, so I'm thinking we could do that at our April 18th meeting. That'd give everybody a little time to look at this, and, you know, we can go further. But we still have a public hearing open. George has had a little more time to hear papers shuffling out there.
School officer got it, quite the raise there.
Who, what?
School officer, $8,000.
Let me look at that. Could you give George a mic, just so, where'd that mic end up?
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
It's on.
Give me a line number there, Mr. George.
83120.11B.
Oh, you're on water.
No, school officer, A3120, police per service or something like that. That would be, I think
3120.
that was, unless I lost my pages here, let me see.
Oh, school, okay. You're saying that, I'm thinking of traffic control?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says school officer,
Okay.
from 22 to
School-
30.
School resource officer, okay. Yeah, okay. Going from 22, okay, these are expense lines, George, and what that is, the school is actually buying more time from us. So therefore, we have more revenue from them, but, so we have to give them some resultant hours, so that's the difference there.
Okay.
So anyway, the board has sat, I have my folder here, we've sat, what, probably 5 or 6 sessions and gone through it. So it's not a surprise to any one board member where these numbers are at. The goal is always to keep it within a cap and also pay our bills, you know, not to be unrealistically high on revenue or low on expenses. And just looks to capture it. I would ask, I could send you all the post-tentative budget with the yellow highlights, and you could look at that, but like I said, it's not my intention tonight to really move and adopt tonight. I think we have to take that preemptive step to rescind the local law. And unless somebody sees something we totally missed, that we have to add this, we have to blow through the cap or cut something that we didn't like. But that being said, I would move that we, everybody good on the public hearing side? Do we move move to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're out 7:22 or so, 7:23. So we can move into, probably what we should do, like we said, tonight's a rather unique meeting. It's the reorganization meeting that we have to do after the March elections. So why don't we jump down and just do the reorg session, mainly because some of it deals with appointments and authorities, and it'll reset some of the tags and duties we have, but it's just to remind everybody. I think first thing first, as you can hear, I'm suffering with a cold tonight, and I think I might have picked it up at last Tuesday's supervisor and mayor's meeting I went to, but I think I was thinking of all nights to be not feeling too well, but what I'd like to do is, as my first appointment, recognize and ask Deputy Mayor position to be retained by Brent Kowalczyk. I've talked to him separately, and I think it's good for me, good for the village, good for Brent if you keep that. The way appointments work, folks, is that the mayor gets to appoint and the board concurs. We have a page of appointment lists, but I think if the cold takes me down in the next 8 minutes, he can run the rest of the meeting. It's sort of a selfish reason, but,
You'll be fine, you'll be fine.
but anyway, I would move, we're not gonna name every person on this list, but, in this case, the deputy mayor is important enough and we should get that straightened away. So I would move that, the village deputy mayor be once again Brent Kowalczyk in recognition of his hard work and what he brings to us. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the rest, we have the clerk and treasurer. They are two different split roles in the village. Cindy wears both hats. Cynthia Sharella is her formal name. I would move that Cindy be reappointed as clerk and treasurer. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then going through, I think we can batch a few, the rest here. Do you have your appointment list in front of you? These are more, these next four I think we could put together. Deputy clerk, Lara Hart, administrator to secretary, administrator and secretary of planning board, Ari Drews, village attorney, McCabe and Mack, special prosecutor, Christopher Montalto. I would move them to be reappointed. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the rest, these are regular employees. I think we'll just break out the sergeant of police department, Patrick Hildebrand. We wouldn't be non-appointing him, but I just thought it'd be good for the public and the board to know that he would remain as our police sergeant. Then it goes through our roster there of full-time police officers and our part-timers. None of them, they've all taken their oaths and sworn in. They're regular duly appointed employees right now. It runs down through everybody there in that department. The list, again, we don't have to reappoint this person. It's a crossing guard, Ron Broadbeck. I heard today the school is trying to give him some sort of commendation. I'm not sure what he did out there, but did you hear anything at all? And then in our highway department, it lists our employees there. And then this is more of an appointment. Cindy, whatever hat she can wear, is Registrar of Vital Statistics. That'd be Cynthia Sharella. And Deputy Registrar Ari Drews. We can lump all these together here. Official newspaper would remain the Kingston Daily Freeman. Our water operator would be VRI Incorporated. Village Justice, we don't get to appoint him, but he's won his own election. He's over there. We would be looking to appoint Associate Village Justice, the Honorable Danielle Cordier, Court Clerk Kathy Fell, and I'm calling her Assistant Court Clerk Rebecca Kent. So I'd break it there and ask that last group, we bunch them all together, and they would be my suggested as appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We move now into the planning department, planning, building, zoning department. You'll see the word acting next to Gary Beck. We're not convinced, it's not a negative against Gary Beck and his firm, but we don't think we have the full final solution to staffing up there. So acting gives us a little more flexibility that his term doesn't follow the appointing officer's term. So we're calling Gary Beck our code enforcement and zoning enforcement officer. Our ADA coordinator would be Jay Trapp. Fire inspector and deputy building inspector Clark Kimball. Deputy building inspector Don Coker, I'd like to call him acting because he comes to us through the Z3 Gary Beck firm, whereas Clark Kimball comes separately, not with the Z3 firm. And then up there would be planning and zoning secretary Ari Drews and Lara Hart. I'd like to bunch them and offer them as appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Dog warden, it's, just so everybody knows, we use a town contract with the SPCA. I don't have a person's name, but our police and our office people know how to exercise that need, right? Village engineer, I'm making a change here. We have CTML working on our major sewer project. We do feel they're working hard and moving that forward, but we're also getting a lot of input and help on other projects from Delaware Engineering, and they've since opened an office right here in the village. They have a lot of expertise, and this is a change, so I pointed out to the board, but I nominate Delaware Engineering to be our village engineer. And just as an offset of facts, it doesn't mean we pay them except for work when we ask them to do work. They're not on any retainer or anything. So I'd offer that. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then zoning, there's one new name in the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would ask our regular attendee, George Beekman, be reappointed as chair. He's nodded earlier that he would be up for that. He does a great job. The other four members, well, let's see, three of the four remaining will be reappointed here. Charles Eric Cathell, Marty Relling, Caroline Ryder. Then you all do know that one of our members resigned for health reasons. And I've spoken to another village resident who's William J. Noonan. He's a retired fellow, used to do detailed negotiations and labor contracts and things. I think he's used to dealing with issues. He's not a planner or an architect or anything by design, but he expressed a willingness to take the courses and understands the course requirements. And he does have time, and he's shown interest in the village. So he'd be a new appointment. So I'd offer the four, but with special attention that we're actually appointing a new one there, William J. Noonan. I offer that as the mayor's appointment. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
In the planning world, planning board, the names there would remain the same. Beth Pagano, chair. There's no change in this. David Pearson, Ray Towell, Stephen Zarchuk, and Donald Hanson. So there's nobody new being inserted there, but just to restate, that's who they are. Village Green, we have, this is a committee. One reason we name the members of a committee gives them some insurance protection and certain, they don't have any executive authority, but it gives them a little more coverage and protection when they're doing things on behalf of the village. So we have here Kathy Pearson, David Pearson, Michael Johnson, Brenda Cagle we keep as ex officio, and Dave Jeffsikas. And anybody else, Brent, on that? Or? Yep. Good. So they're all existing members, and like I said, they're not meeting that same formal officer appointment category. It's just so you all know that. Likewise, with the Hardscrabble Committee, same thing. It's a bunch of volunteers who do a lot of work, and this naming them gives them certain protections. That includes Matt Donahue, Will Noonan, Sue McCann, Rebecca Rothstein, Craig Rothstein, Doug Strawinski, Kathy Treble, myself, Emily Trapp, Kim McGrath, and looks like we have to add Jennifer
Oh, am I
Norris.
not on there?
No,
Oh, that's fine by me.
I threw
Really?
Jennifer
I get
Norris.
the year off.
That's really funny.
Jennifer Norris. Library board, same thing, no vacancies, no openings, just, they're all set down there. These are some things we've thrown in the past. Spectrum Cable rep gives me the right to yell at Spectrum Cable, I guess that's me. Appeals officer, that's also me. And village historian, this is new. Some of us might remember we've been under pressure to name a village historian for many moons, and we finally found a village resident who's interested and knowledgeable, and it's Sally Dwyer McNulty. So you might have seen her present up at the Elmendorf. She's a student of history and,
Teacher of history.
pardon me?
A teacher.
Teacher of history too.
Professor.
And she's closely working with Historic Red Hook. And I did explain to her that, in my opinion, there's always a confused sense of what the village historian does. The clerk, by her role and duties, is the archivist and saver of records. But then when does something become historic, in other words? So we don't want the historian to overstep any bounds, and it's, but she will work with maybe like the 1890s record books or something that are in there that
You know
are worth
how
saving.
wild those historians are.
So anyway, this would be a new appointment. So I'd offer Sally Dwyer McNulty as the Village of Red Hook historian. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Another bit of pro forma stuff for the public, but we have to do it by rules. Village Board of Trustees meets second Monday at 7 PM. Village Board of Trustees workshops for the third Thursday at 7 PM here at Village Hall. All other committees and advisory boards meet as announced. That would be Hardscrabble, Village Green, those sorts of committees. other more formal ones are the planning board. They meet the second Thursday, and then the ZBA meets the fourth Thursday. And again, they're not always, if there's no agenda, the ZBA does not meet. Same with the planning board. All meetings are held in Village Hall and are open to the public and are ADA accessible. For more info on that, read or visit the Kingston Daily Freeman. And then, for now, redhooknyvillage.org would be our website. That'll be changing shortly. But to what I want to do tonight too is, as far as our duties, when we mentioned we all got, well, 3 of us were reelected. I would like to retain the things I was overseeing prior, which would be police and law enforcement, personnel, Red Hook Together, insurance, economic development committee, and in my nature of my job, all of the departments, but then we subspecialize after that. Brent, I would like you to stay with highway department, infrastructure, streets and sidewalks, architecture and historic resources, and village green. Those are the things you've been doing all along. Jay Trapp snuck away, we'll wait for him to come back. Jennifer Norris, I'd like you to stay with the things you've been doing, parks, recreation, community programs, materials management, environment, senior affairs, and library relations. Charles Lang, same, I think, facilities, building and grounds, water department, and the big broad thing of energy sustainability, which ranges from LED lights to bicycle paths to, it's similar to what we had you doing. We try to find everybody's area of interest and expertise and work with that. In part of the reorg, there's 1 or 2 resolutions, maybe Cindy can give us some numbers here. They're straightforward and simple. One is that we just rename our banks of record, meaning where the the treasurer is entitled or authorized to bring deposits to. It's for everybody, we use Key Bank for 90% of our work, and then M&T Bank for some deposits. So while she's getting us a number, 15, yeah. I came with a pen, where'd it go? Let's see. It's a short one, we'll call it Resolution 15, 2019, designating depositories. Whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that the village law, Section 4-4112, Paragraph 3, Sub 2, requires the designation of banks or trust companies for the deposit of all village monies. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, the Board of Trustees designates the following institutions as depositories of all monies received by the village treasurer, clerk, and receiver of taxes. And we list there Key Bank and M&T Bank. That's where we currently go. There's no change there. It just recertifies that. So I'm offering it as Resolution 15. I'll move that we adopt it. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Second small one is, in certain cases when we have to drive our own vehicles to official events or meetings, the Board of Trustees is entitled to get what we deem the IRS, the current IRS mileage rate back for using our cars, if we so choose. So this is called the mileage allowance. It just restates it, and it's a requirement in the code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook has determined to pay a fixed rate for mileage as reimbursement to village officials and employees who use their personal automobiles while performing official duties. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, the Board of Trustees will approve reimbursement to such officers and employees at the current federal IRS rate per mile at the time of the trip. In Section 2, the resolution is effective immediately. I would offer that as a motion. Is there a second? And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. 16.
Let's see. Okay, I think we've hit the talking points there. Let me just go through the book for a second. Help us make sure we get the reorg done right. We went through swearing in, we did the appointments, we designated the official newspaper. Set our dates for regular meetings. Later on tonight, we've been circulating a procurement policy. In years past, we would say it was as listed in our code. We want to insert a new one. I hope that'll happen tonight. Internally, we have workplace violence prevention policies, sexual harassment policies, different things in place. We named a few resolutions on mileage and so forth. We've hit the high points there. In my opinion, in the reorg session, we've hit what we had to do there, so we can move into what would be a normal meeting. And we usually start that with a version of budget talks, which would be the treasurer's report, and I know I have one here. Do you have one right on top of your list? Let's see. All right, this is prepared by the treasurer as of 8 April, which is tonight. And looking at it, looks, I guess we'll ask Cindy for some personal input in a minute, but general fund is showing an account balance of $423,709. Water fund, $146,132. Trust and agency, $33,131. Materials management, $735.68. Petty cash, $68.70. Village green, $4,454. Hardscrabble, $1,614. Health insurance, $3,995. Sewer fund, $17,300. Expenses for the month, general fund, $170,583. Water fund, $61,196. Trust and agency, $33,131. Materials management, $2,134. I did set out the vouchers, and it seemed to me in the general fund, we paid, I think, the last fire company contract, and in the water fund, we paid some more interest, right? Yeah, so they're each about 24 grand, and so maybe the last 6 weeks, the expenses might even be a little less in those funds. So what we could do, this is, like we said, April 9th, when we fine tune our budget, we could just make sure there's no surprises sitting here that we need to think about in next year's budget, but I think we've addressed most of them in our workshops and our budget meetings. So I would move that we accept Clerk Sherrill, or Treasurer Sherrilla's treasurer's report. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It looks like for me, police report for March. The report indicates a total of 353 incidents, 255 in the village, 94 in the town, 4 in the village of Tivoli. Tickets resulting of, in that month, were 105. I guess that's a 70. Can you guys read that? Is that a 70 or 78? What is that?
78?
700, 78, I guess we'll call it. It's like somebody has the 8 looks like a 0 over a 0. Tickets that would be in the Village of Red Hook, 78, I guess, including 5 parking tickets and 27 in the town. Yeah, 78 and 27 sounds like a 5 number at the end. Arrests were 20, 12 in the village and 8 in the town. We're doing the police report. You might remember we talked about that ice slide incident that took out one of our newer police interceptor cars. Turns out the insurance company is totaling it, which then triggers, today we found the certificate of origin, which triggers the full replacement cost check, which is probably 41,000-ish. I told Patrick I need to see all the numbers before we do anything, but
Get the newest and latest vehicle.
yeah, we get, yeah. And I've been trying to convince him to get an electric car, but not going anywhere.
I like the Prius.
Pulling for a Segway.
Yeah, parking ticket and Segway man. So, but he's not here, so we can make fun. But no, it's Ford makes a hybrid one, but it still takes gas. You know, it runs like any hybrid. You know, you still put gas in it. And, so anyway, but that's some news on the police department. While I'm up Red Hook together, gee, I'm talking a lot tonight. Red Hook together, we met over at the community center. It was an invite, a local business person meeting, and quite a few people showed up. It was a great session. It's a composite of the school, board, village, town, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary people, all working together. And we meet once a month, so if anybody's ever interested, check in with us and we'll tell you where to go. But it's a really positive group and helping move Red Hook forward. And we are renewing our insurance. I think our agent's trying to meet with us here in the next few weeks. It comes up soon, both health insurance and our property and liability coverages. That's what I have for now, and I think I might hand it over to Mr. Trustee Trapp. You ready to talk about planning and zoning reports?
Oh, you bet.
All right, give me a break here.
You bet.
All right.
All righty. Well, let's see. I'll go for the cool stuff first. We have, as president of Dutchess County Planning Federation, we have met and we've got two of our first 3 spring classes set. We're going to announce a third in a while, and it's kind of exciting. The first one is actually tomorrow night. You going, George? Yeah, okay. April 9, 6 to 8, Millbrook Farm and Home Center. It's called Streamlining Land Use Review and Approval. And we're going to have Tiffany Zazula and Jessica Bacher from Pace University, and they're an extreme wealth of knowledge. We're very lucky to have those guys come and tell us about this sort of stuff. And as well, Judith Knaus is going to be helping out with the presentation, so it should be fun. All the people that go, you know the deal. It costs you $5. You get dinner, a little entertainment, and it's a lot of fun. Yes, sir.
I had a question. When did you say that was? I was looking and putting a book away. Is that a 4-hour continuing ed course, or is that any continuing ed component to that?
For planning and zoning,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So a new member on the board should.
Oh, absolutely so.
When did you say the date was? I'm sorry.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
That's the first one. April 30th is the second, which would be appropriate for a new board member. Every year, we do the planning board overview to give general, how to read a map, what to think about when you read a map, general regulations. That's part 1. This is April 30th that I'm talking about, and the Department of State is going to be presenting it. Planning board overview and seeker, because some things in seeker have changed. Some of the thresholds for type 1, type 2 classifications have changed. In addition, as I understand it, I haven't seen it, but a lot of the changes also relate to solar installations and the regulations and environmental impacts and those. And I'm not sure whether it relates to, I can't understand how it would relate to, roof-mounted or small ground-mounted, so that may be that it's the large-scale solar which is trying to push into this area, whether it be just large-scale solar or whether it's community solar. So I'm thinking we're going to have some interesting discussions about that on April 30th. So, and that's going to be Patricia Burke and Paula Gilbert from DOS going to be presenting those. So should be fun. Same deal. You get dinner, and it's $5, and you get educational credits for planning and zoning board members. So as soon as we get settled, we're waiting to find out who is going to present the third class, and when we find out who, then we'll know when, and then we'll give you an update on all of that. So on to the monthly report for March. Planning and zoning, 4 building permits were issued within the village, 2 certificates of occupancy, 3 certificates of compliance. Thank you. 3 municipal searches were conducted, 2 orders to remedy, 1 stop work order, and there were 3 complaints tendered, Market Street, Phillip Street, and Elizabeth Street. Doesn't give me details, but if anybody wants to know, I'll find out for you. Planning Board, March 14, had a meeting, public hearing for a minor subdivision, Cookingham Farms. And March 21st, 2019, approval of a minor subdivision, Cookingham Farms. So it was all taken care of. Zoning Board of Appeals, you guys had some action, huh? Good for you. Good for you.
Got one coming up too, don't you?
Public hearing and area variance application, property at 40 Garden. So, get your hands dirty again, huh? Get back into the game a little bit. And the money tendered in March in the Red Hook Village Building Department was $1,507. And as soon as I hear more about the new courses, I'll let you know. And I think that should be pretty much it for me.
Thank you. Let's see. Why don't we switch over to Trustee Norris and her usual?
Do you want the happy stuff or the sad stuff? What do you want?
Happy first.
Our annual egg scramble is going to be this weekend, and so far the weather looks good. Saturday, April 13th from 11 to 1 with the egg hunt. I put that in quotes because it's not really a hunt. It's really a scramble.
Yeah.
That'll be at noon. There will also be an egg hunt for all abilities, which will be held at 1 o'clock. Please contact the Red Hook Library to register for that. Our egg scramble is run by the Red Hook Police Department, Red Hook Public Library, and the Village of Red Hook. Apple Blossom Day will be Saturday, May 11th. This event is run by the Red Hook Rotary, so contact them for more details. That's, food and vendors and music and that sort of thing. Materials management, from March 10th through March 28th, we sold $1,236 in garbage tags. For the month of March, we had 7.78 tons of garbage, 0.45 tons of cardboard, 1.17 tons of newspaper, and 1.32 tons of commingled. We paid $837.39 for the disposal of garbage, and we are no longer being charged to dispose of recycling. Recycling has been a global problem. I would say at least once a week, Mr. Blundell sends me an email with an article about how it's become a global problem. And it's impacting everybody, but rest assured, we are recycling. So we know that, by separating, it's kind of a drag, but we know that it is going and being disposed of properly. So we are now alternating paper and cardboard. Every other week with commingled, the paper and cardboard must be separated because they go in different parts of the truck. So that will hopefully help with matters, because my paper personally was kind of overflowing. So this way, it'll be every other week. We're also having our annual spring cleaning tag sale, where you buy 10 of one color, you get one free. That will be for the months of April, May, and June. Also thinking big picture, the Drawdown Eco Challenge is going on for the month of April, which is a fun and interactive way to make a difference on climate solutions. Making sure that you're recycling properly is one of the actions, and you can join a team at drawdown.ecochallenge.org. That's it.
Good. Well,
How is that slight schedule change with the way that we're doing the recycling? Was it okay? Did it come through all right?
I think on the big picture, the staff got the calendar out timely, and like Jen said, I think it's way better having a little more chance to get rid of your cardboard and newspaper at the same time. I was studying the numbers a little bit. We tend to look at this in terms of, okay, what can we do to correct things? At least that's my goal. When you look at Jen's report, say for March, it was 2.94 tons of recycling and 7.78 tons. Let's call that 3 and 8, just to round things up, so it's 11 tons. On one hand, doesn't sound like much, but when you think a ton is 2,000 pounds of something, that's 22,000 pounds of waste we're moving. Like the 8 and the 3 don't sound like much, but 22,000 is. So we're moving material, and it's trying to look at the trending. The trending is not good. I talked to some folks that are using the private haulers, and I think they should ask their private haulers, where is the recycling really going? Because today there was another story I didn't send to Jen. I think I spared her, but Philadelphia, the city itself, right now they're burning about half of their recycling, and everybody thinks it's being recycled, which to me is like almost dishonest. It's like, everybody's going through all the effort to separate it and then they're burning it. Like Jen said, we're not doing that and don't intend to, but somehow we have to get the message out to our people. But we did, you look at the trending here. Well, maybe we could play with some math someday separately, not here tonight, but if you go back to, this is March of this year, you're just trying to see, we're 8 tons combined. If you look at August last summer, it's 13, 14, 15 tons we sent out. It looks like it was around 15 tons average, and now, when we got pushed onto that change of recycling, it looks like it hurt us. And we have, to do with the budget, we have moved certain things to adapt better within our budgeting system, but it looks, I thought I'd play with tonnage and ticket tag sales and make sure things are jiving up, but it still is 22,000 pounds of stuff, and it's got to go somewhere. Anyway, thank you, Jen. How about Mr. Trustee Lang? You on water over there? You got your, I know it came in late today, but it came in.
Yes, but I have it. So the Village of Red Hook Water Treatment Facilities monthly report. During the month of March, the water treatment facility treated 6,790,300 total gallons, which is an average of 219,000 gallons a day, which is pretty much in line with past averages. We had a bit of a blip last month, in February, for various slightly unknown reasons, but it's getting back in line with the averages going back over the year. We sent out 3 bacteriological samples for the month to Smith Environmental Laboratory in Hyde Park, and those 3 came back absent of any coliform E. coli bacteriological issues. So that's always reassuring. And then through the month of March, we used 60 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, an average daily use of 1.94 gallons per day, which is right in line with our averages.
Okay. I think the rest is more internal for us as far
Yep.
as staff, and I know I could maybe characterize it as we've had help. We brought in the officials from Badger Meter, and that's both the physical meter and the radio read head part of it. And they've gone out with our guys to try to look at some of these problem situations. They've worked with our software billing company. And Cindy, maybe you have some input. My sense is it's starting to get identified and corrected.
Yes.
It's, what we're talking about is a couple of users that were having weird consumption, either errors or issues, and it was hard to determine were they really using the water or was it some software error. But they're attacking that. We've actually internally changed to be more working with VRI and using some of their expertise on identifying the problem too, instead of our own staff who are more, how do you say, repair oriented for the distribution system, not so much the metering and the billing systems. But thank you, Charlie. Looks like we could move to Mr. Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk. Are you ready to go?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thanks.
I'll start with the Village Green Committee monthly report. Current balances of the Village Green Committee's related budget accounts as of March 31st are as follows. Community beautification, $2,666.50. Shade tree contractual, $2,350. And the Village Green checking account, $4,454.92. The Village Green Committee met on March 30th at the Red Hook Village Building, and we are preparing for our annual spring planting and Arbor Day celebrations, which will be held on April 27th. For sure, the trees are coming in on the 23rd. I think the newsletter had a misprint in there. I think it said April 29th, 2017. The date is the 27th, which is a Saturday. and 15 trees will be planted along Fraley Street, Church Street, Benner Road, West Market Street, and Richard Abrahams Memorial Park. And the volunteers for Planting Day will assemble at the Red Hook Village Municipal Parking Lot at 9:00 a.m. Bring shovels, rakes, rain gear if necessary. And we will start by reading the Arbor Day proclamation and do team assignments and our photo op. And the National Arbor Day Foundation notified the Village of Red Hook that it has earned recognition as a 2018 Tree City USA, stating that residents of the Village of Red Hook should be proud to live in a community that makes the planting and care of trees a priority. The letter further states, if ever there was a time for trees, now is that time. Communities worldwide are facing issues with air quality, water resources, personal health and well-being, and energy use. The Village of Red Hook is stepping up to do its part. As a result of the village's commitment to effective urban forestry management, the village is helping to provide a solution to these challenges. Always nice to hear. The Village of Red Hook Highway Department monthly report. The Highway Department has begun to pick up brush and lawn debris. This service will continue through the fall, routinely picking up debris every first and third Monday of the month. Residents are reminded to place lawn debris curbside and not in the road. And please limit the size of the brush piles to 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet, with tree branches and limbs no larger than 6 inches in diameter. Brush that includes tree trunks or stumps, grass clippings, garbage, or building material debris will not be picked up. It's nice not reading the snow ordinance stuff.
Yeah, right.
The Highway Department will be sweeping streets in early May. It's usually the weekend before apple blossom. And residents are reminded to sweep or rake sand and gravel from their lawn edges onto the side of the street. And please do not place the sand and gravel in a row, or place it in a row, but not in a pile, to facilitate more efficient cleanup. This sweeper is not designed to pick up mounds of material. The Highway Department received an estimate for custom street services for the street sweeping, and cost to provide for a sweeper truck is $5,200 per week, and the cost, if we chose to go that option with the vacuum truck, is $5,600 per week. And the Highway Department will be repaving for this year portions of Kent Road and Cambridge Drive. The approximately $70,000 project costs will be deducted from the Maintenance of Streets budget line out of general fund, and the CHIPS budget line also from the general fund. CHIPS is from grants from the state of New York. No revenue was generated from the sale of scrap metal during the month of March. Total revenue generated this fiscal year totaled $2,159.60. So we did exceed our expectations. Since inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September of 2007, $28,157.77 has been generated. And money for this program goes to purchase tools and equipment for the highway, water, and materials management departments. And anyone interested in donating scrap metal can contact the Highway Department at 758-8600 or the village clerk's office. And Highway Department personnel will assist by picking up scrap metal upon request. The Red Hook Infrastructure and Intermunicipal Task Force monthly report. Start with the sewer project. Meetings are becoming longer and longer every Friday, but meetings were held on March 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. We reviewed comments from the Dutchess County Department of Health of February 22nd and prepared responses for a meeting that was held on April 3rd at the offices of Dutchess County DOH. We reviewed and proposed amendments to the sanitary sewer use law of October 16th. I think we'll be discussing that a little later. We also reviewed outstanding easements with the assessor for initial offerings and eminent domain proceedings. 3 property owners are still outstanding on that. We reviewed requirements to receive the New York State DEC review and approval Amended speedies permit is required to finalize DEC approval. We reviewed the outstanding requirements to receive prior to bid approvals and notification, and USDA requires approval and sign-off from Dutchess County DOH and New York State DEC. We also consulted with Pat Nolan, who is a sewer operator at Hillsdale, New York, which has the step system that we'll be installing, similar to what we'll be installing. We also notified Tom Field of Ryan Biggs, Clark Davis Engineering Surveying, Pete Sotero of Morris Associates regarding the step systems, and Dutchess County DOH review procedures. The Red Hook Village Water Project, Phase 2, still ongoing. On March 21st, we met with our water operator, made some adjustments to the pumps and controls to decommission the Tower Street elevated water storage tank. Pending further adjustments, the tank should be decommissioned in the near future. The sooner the better. The South Broadway Old Farm Road Water Main Loop Project, we had meetings on March 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th with some of the people who are actually financing most of this project. We'll be providing oversight, but we reviewed the plans, specifications, and cost estimates to connect dead-end Red Hook Village water mains located in the town of Red Hook south of the village border. By connecting the mains, the loop will provide for more efficient, safer, and more easily repaired water distribution service to properties along Old Farm Road and South Broadway, north of M&T Bank. And work is progressing on the community solar project. A meeting was held on March 22nd. That included representatives from Sun Common and our town supervisor and Denny Calais of the Red Hook Town CAC. The project located at the Red Hook Village Firehouse Lane Wellfield site will contain approximately 8 acres of PV solar panels, provide energy at a reduced rate for Red Hook Town, Red Hook Village, and the Village of Tivoli, municipally owned buildings and facilities. It will also provide reduced energy costs to residents who choose to sign up for this reduced rate energy program. The anticipated timeline we discussed, April this month, agreements will be settled with the developer and the municipalities. May 1st, we'll begin marketing the reduced rate energy program. In September, construction and installation of the PV solar panels will begin. And in November, the system will be operational, producing electrical energy via an approximately 2 megawatt PV solar facility. So some have noticed we've already started clearing the side of trees, which is sad to see them go, but necessary for this project so they don't put shade on the PV panels. On the intermunicipal task force side, both Charlie and I sit on that, representing the village. Meetings were held on March 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th at the town hall. We are still discussing and reviewing short-term rentals for the town of Red Hook. The goal is to propose the adoption by the town board of balanced and reasonable regulations governing short-term rentals, allowing citizens to share the economic benefit of their property while protecting and preserving neighborhood character and long-term housing availability. We also reviewed the proposed annual operating permit for STRs, and we also consulted with Michelle Gregg regarding hosted and non-hosted short-term rentals in primary dwellings. And the last one, these are some reports from some of the committees I sit on with the town and others. There are no meetings of the Town of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee or the Community Preservation Fund. However, the balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of March 31st is $1,415,314.78. On the Sauk Hill Watershed Community, both Ed and myself attended the last meeting, which was held on March 25th at the Elmendorf. We discussed the New York State DEC eel monitoring programs and the amphibian migration and road crossing project, and we were treated to a presentation by Professor John Nolan of Pace University Land Use Law Center and he did a presentation on property rights and local protection of water quality. What can communities do to protect their water while respecting the legal rights of individual property owners? And the one thing we learned, Jay may be interested, but Pace University just got notification that they're the #1 environmental law school in the country at this
Doesn't
point.
surprise me.
The Northern Dutchess Alliance, which I'm a member of representing Red Hook. The Northern Dutchess Alliance annual breakfast was held on March 7th. Both Ed and I attended that. It was held at the Beekman Arms in Rhinebeck. Presentations by Red Hook Together regarding working collaboratively with community governments, civic and cultural groups to promote the area and actively work together to achieve the community's aspirations. And also a presentation was given by Historic Red Hook outlining their commitment to achieve community goals as outlined in the Northern Dutchess Alliance's Blueprint for Economic Development. So Red Hook was very much in the spotlight at that meeting. There's another project going on right now called Playground Community Build, and I think, Jen, you sit on that committee?
I don't.
Okay, your
Maybe
name's
I
on
do. I don't know.
the flyer, actually.
I've been to a few meetings, but yeah.
Okay. So what this is, the Red Hook Plays is a grassroots organization started by local parents who want our play facilities to be supportive, enriching, and accessible to children of all ages and abilities. Red Hook Plays works hand in hand with the town of Red Hook in its efforts to revive the rec park's 20 to 30-year-old equipment. The town of Red Hook, along with numerous donations, purchased playground equipment. It was decided that the playground construction would be a professionally supervised community build. The volunteers are being sought to assist with the build, and there's 2 weekends. This would be happening May 3rd through 5th, and the second one is May 10th through the 11th at the rec park. And volunteers can sign up at redhookplays.com, and no construction experience is necessary. There's a bunch of flyers all over the village, too, if people can't see this or remember that email address to sign up. The Town of Red Hook Local Revitalization Program Working Group. We met on March 5th and 26th in the Red Hook Town Hall. We reviewed sections on zoning and historic and scenic features. And that's all I think I have.
Good, thank you, Brent.
Yep.
While he was reading, I put asterisks by things that I think are important for us to think about. One is the town, as Brent reports, is working through the intermunicipal task force on the short-term rental, in other words, Airbnb, VRBO. And I do think one of the bullet points there is something we should consider too. The goal is to propose the adoption of balanced and reasonable regulations that both allow citizens to share economic benefit of their property while protecting and preserving neighborhood character and protecting long-term housing availability. I would think, as a board, we should keep posted on this, and I think we'd not want to be necessarily separate from the town on this. I'd like to see what they actually come up with, not that we would piggyback totally on what they say, but maybe keep our eyes on what they're coming up with, and
This is proving to be a very challenging effort, and we've been
but I think this wording sounds reasonable, and, it's coming through.
we've been looking at what other municipalities in the area and the region have been doing, and it
Yeah,
is a problem.
It
It's a
seems
good-
that there's a piece missing, and the piece would be not just the community character and available housing, it's life safety.
Yeah.
Because there's no control over somebody rents their house, you don't know anything about it.
There's no fire inspections, no
Yeah.
health inspections.
Exactly, so that's the
So,
part,
those
being a code official, that's the thing that gets me kind of churning, is what are you walking into when you rent one of these places?
And that's one of the things we're looking at too, and, by regulating use and perhaps requiring permits that would require inspections or proof of sign off from DOH, the building departments on fire, health and safety issues. That's all part of it, insurance as well, so.
Savannah, Georgia has a very good regulation. You might want to check that one. I've been doing some research for municipalities where I work other than here, And we were looking at some model ordinances, and California has a couple, Savannah has a few that are of import and may, lend some language that might be of use, so,
New York City as well.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What Brent just mentioned, how big an entity does it take to control it? Is it, it's certainly not village, maybe not even town. Would it be county or state or, or we are home rule based municipalities, who should go first? But anyway, it's.
Well, enforcement is something that we talk about, but, without a law, you can't enforce it. So we're dealing, first things first, get the law on the books and then see about enforcement. So that's
we'll
always challenging.
So Brent does keep us aware, but we'll keep following that too. All right, looks like we hit the department reports. Thank you all. We did in the regular business section, we already hit the reorg portion. Next, I have their procurement policy. We talked about it a few times here tonight, and over the past 3 or 4 months, we've been circulating drafts. I guess to state it in an overview, our current procurement policy, we need to refer to in the reorg session, like I said. But when one looks at it, it goes back to about 1996 when state limits were lower. What that means is to buy goods and services, the state used to say over 10,000 needed to go to bid and over 20,000 for more material construction contracts. Now it's much higher than that, and we've incorporated those numbers. Now it's 20 and 35,000 in those realms. But what we found, we're getting tripped up a little bit with the day-to-day purchases where department heads need something. Our old law said something like $250 had to have 3 bids, which was really not feasible, not realistic in the modern era, especially with delivery of goods and certain services. So we asked council to put out something that was consistent with the current state of New York law and also incorporate things we did ourselves here to modernize. A while back, we did that piggybacking and best value option. So he put that out, and we've been circulating it around, and I did some more tweaking. A couple of key points are, we're still entitled by law, and we don't want to change that, to retain our ability to select professional services, and it's defined in the form here in our code change suggestion. That would be whether it's an insurance agent, the lawyers representing us as village council, engineers. There's a whole bunch of definitions you'll see where you don't necessarily have to go to bid on those things. And when you're looking for things that take a high level of education, credentialing, licensing, and confidentiality, different things like that, and we're still reserving our rights in that regard. When we had the controller's audit here, they were saying, well, the controller's best practice, they would like you to shop them every 4 or 5 years. I don't see a need to do that unless we were spending millions of dollars with any one vendor or anything, but you might know McCabe is our village attorney. They get to know us and work with us and deal with us to shop them out every 5 years. They haven't raised their rate in 5 years, so it's not, something where we're being abused. Where I spent a lot of time was making sure the day-to-day work can get done. And if you look at page 1, like I said, you've all seen this, and I've developed the resolution, but trying to find a point where, at the direction of a department head and within our budget, that's the underlying presumption of all this. People just can't order willy-nilly and go off budget. But these would be for goods, so to speak, not the construction contracts. These would be purchase contracts. Up to 2,000 would be at the discretion of a department head. Then between $2,001 and $5,000, you would need 3 written, either fax, email, quotes, something where you shopped it. And 5,000 to 20,000, good faith effort to get 3 quotes or RFP. Yeah, we might be more inclined at those numbers to do an RFP because those are serious numbers that side. Most of our day-to-day stuff, when you look at the vouchers, we spent $389 on this or $210 on that. The old 250 limit kind of trapped us with the controller a little bit, but it's just these make more sense. If you flip to page 2, it's double-sided here. That has to do with public works contracts. And like we said, the state raised that limit to 35,000, but we're saying is similar. I'd like to keep it consistent, up to 2,000 discretion department head. And then same thing with that next bandwidth, get 3 written fax email quotes. In other words, you get an email and print it here or something. You don't have to have 3 quotes coming in the mail from somebody. And the same thing then, over 35,000, of course, formal public bid. That's something we always would do. But in that upper end of the range, good faith effort to obtain 3 quotes or RFP again. I think that covers us to protect and enable us to do business, but at the same time, make sure we're not abusing, we're not overusing somebody and not having them compete for our business. And the other part, from my perspective as mayor, and the board sees it too, but when we need, for instance, in the law firm, we use McCabe and Mack for our general legal counsel. But if we have something that's unique to personnel or union contract, we have a different firm, David Wise, who's a specialist in that world. And if you look, we spent about $1,300 last year in personnel law. It's not a big number. We spent $18,000 in retaining our general counsel firm, which again is not a big number. And to be shopping and moving them around every couple of years doesn't make sense. So we retain that right. And it's within home rule and village law that we can retain that right. So that's embedded in here. I guess it'd be page 3, where you determine what services fit into that category of professional or credential type services. With all that sitting here, I thought with the reorg session, we'd be better served getting rid of our old 1996 version, putting in a 2019 version. It's not a local law, it's just a code within our body of work. And so we don't need the full public hearing and all that related stuff. So I developed a resolution. I'll read it and then we can talk some more. Whereas the village incurs expenses for operations and major projects, whereas the Village of Red Hook needs to update its procurement policy to reflect changes in New York State limits and update internal limits to be consistent and effective. Whereas the village board has reviewed options and intends to modernize its procurement policy in line with New York State requirements as stated in the attachment. And that's what I'm calling this. Somehow we'll have to, the clerk, make this designated as the attachment. Therefore, be it resolved, effective April 8, 2019, the village will adopt the attached text into its code to replace the current procurement policy. The clerk will send the text to code publishers and department heads, and the clerk is assigned to distribute the new rules to board members, again, extra E in there, and any other appropriate persons. So what we're saying is it could go to our vendors, it could go certainly in our code and our E-code, but this will be our new procurement policy. I've kind of characterized it, like we said, it's gone around in a few versions. I think it retains our rights to do what we need, and go from there. So I would offer it as a motion. I guess Cindy would need to give me a number here. 17.
Second.
And so B made it, K seconded. Any other thoughts or discussion?
Would any language for WMBE be in here, or would that be in additional law somewhere else?
It tends to be somewhere else, Jay, when we do USDA or whatever, it comes from somewhere, the funding agencies throw all that in. Good question, though.
EFC is,
Pardon me?
I said EFC, Environmental Facilities Corporation, does have a pretty stringent MWBE requirement.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because some of these things are, something between 5 and 20, didn't know if we would need to.
Some are up to 30, yeah.
It is, there's no obligation, nothing in law pushed down the village that we have, when we do the big borrows and the construction projects, when we're using somebody else's money, they tell us, use MWBE in your bids. But
MWBE stands for Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise.
for those that don't know. So we have motion on the floor, seconded, some discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any, I think I heard all ayes. Good, thank you. That's good. So Cindy would work on that. couple of shorter things. Let's see, fire company contract. You all, the board might recall, we've been sitting quite frequently anymore with the fire company on their 100th anniversary and different things. Much better communication networks existing now. We did sit in when they negotiated with the town, and what we have is, we're moving forward. Our contract comes out, I think, the end of May, so it's in line with the town contract as far as rates and so forth, which was a sticking point a few years ago, which kind of blew up in everybody's face, but that's moving ahead. Let's see, I thought I'd put a little push on, we have that ad hoc zoning review committee that's looking at additional general business district changes. We don't need an update tonight, but I thought we'd reinvigorate that committee. There's a lot of positive action going on in the village street scene as far as, like, the big talk is the one family selling a lot of their properties. There's a lot of interest, a lot of action. And we've had people walking in on some other properties. There's a real serious interest in Red Hook. It's amazing. And so we're going to need to look at what, they come in to visit us and we set forth our goals and show them our pattern book. But I do think the GBD, highway business, NMU has to be kind of just, it can be worked on by those that are on the committee, but there's a lot of action out there looking to comply with what we need and want, so it's all good. So if that committee could reinvigorate now that the winter's over and so forth. The last thing I had was set public hearing. I have sewer use mods, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I added handwritten to myself tax cap, rescind. This goes with that formal step we mentioned earlier, so I know Victoria from Rodenhouse Shaw Polidoro sent us very late in the day something on the sewer use mods. What this is, Brent can chip in a little bit too, but what we're finding is we're moving toward construction of the sewer and working out the last easements, and something the board came up with. While we're in the middle of condemnation and eminent domain proceedings, the premise of the whole sewer project was that those that come in up front get their costs, installation costs and tank costs paid as part of the project. We're looking at tweaking that a bit, and then Victoria has sat with Brent and myself, looked at other pieces of our code, just trying to update certain things. I wouldn't expect us to read, pardon me, yeah, I know. I wouldn't expect us to read all this right now. She references 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is the back page here. 5, 6. What we have here in front of us is what would satisfy placing an amendment to local law in the board's hands. To be quite frank, I haven't had a chance. It came in about 5 p.m. We need to set a public hearing on it. So we should all read it before the public hearing, but we want to move on this in a fast time frame, so we can do it at our regularly scheduled workshop meeting. We could have a public hearing there, April, I think I keep saying the 18th. I better double check that. So we could do it there or at a regular May meeting. When would the May meeting be?
That is May 13th.
I'm thinking, I'd like to do the budget at the April 18th meeting. What do you think with regard to this in May or April?
We're not going to,
It would just be a public hearing.
we're not going to send out invitations, right? Just
Well, we'd have to,
public hearing.
we'd have to notice it. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish that notice. Maybe Mr. J. Trapp, you want to read the resolution to set the public hearing? It's one pager, it looks like.
Do I?
You have it there? I can send mine down.
Let's see, right here?
Yeah, just,
Oh, yes, okay,
Or 18.
18. Okay, resolution establishing a date for public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the village sewer law. Whereas a proposed form of local law entitled, "A Local Law to Amend Chapter 145 Sewers," parenthetic, the proposed local law, has been submitted to the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook, the board. And whereas the public law amends and clarifies the obligations of landowners within the active service area of the sewer system to connect to the sewer system and the costs associated therewith. And whereas in accordance with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, the board is required to determine the classification of the proposed project. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5, parenthetic C, parenthetic 26, routine or continuing agency administration and management, not including new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment, is a Type 2 action. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the board as follows. Number 1, the adoption of the proposed local law is a Type 2 action under SECRA. Number 2, the board shall hold a public hearing on April 18?
18, we'll say. Yeah.
April 18, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Village Hall, 7467 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, to hear all interested parties on said proposed local law. And the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish notice of said public hearing in the official newspapers of the village on or before April,
That's tomorrow.
okay, so April 9.
Gotta be tomorrow.
2019, which is not less than 10 calendar days prior to the date of said public hearing. Number 4, the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the public hearing notice to the clerks of adjacent municipalities. That's all I have.
You don't think so?
Don't think we're going to get there?
I mean, I can contact the paper tomorrow, but it won't be in print tomorrow. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, that's true. They don't like to move that fast.
Well, here's the thought. What if we say this, and if we can't do it, I mean, other option is to do a special meeting, but I don't know if it's worth that, meaning like if we picked April 25th or something.
The following Thursday.
But that breaks it off. I don't like breaking things out of normal sequence somehow. It seems not quite right. Yeah, I think we might have to revert to the May 13th.
We gotta be legal about this thing.
So what we're saying is pull out where we insert April 18th, and we'll write in there May 13th.
May 13,
Yeah, and then
and the publishing is 10 days
days before,
ahead.
yeah, so it'd be May 3rd, I guess.
I'll call Victoria tomorrow and have this revised
Yeah,
and get the public hearing.
but I'll handwrite that in. I think we would say, we still want to do it in May.
So the May 13th would be the public hearing, and notification has to be out before May 3rd.
Yeah. So Jay read it. I'll offer it as a motion. Is there a second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then a little less formal for the tax cap rescind. That, I think if Cindy could help me craft a resolution right now to set a public hearing for the, let's see, April 18th meeting, which would be this week, could get out tomorrow. Just so we have the tax cap rescind, public hearing, April 18th, 7 PM. And what this is, folks, is we're just saying we're meeting the tax cap, we're have to rescind the law. It's not a huge public input. It'd be worse if we were
Okay, here,
not rescinding it. In other words, we're,
this is
pardon me?
last year's, so just review that.
Okay.
Resolution 19, or did I do 19? 19.
Yeah, this looks like, this is one where we authorized it to go over. This is one rescinding it, where you just send it up to the controller. So what we're doing, I'm setting a tax cap rescind public hearing, so we can send that public law up to the controller's office. That'd be April 18th at 7 PM at our workshop meeting. And like I said, it's in no way, nothing's gonna push us over the cap from what I can see, so that's not our intent, so we're just gonna rescind our ability to cap it.
And that's for the public hearing?
Yeah.
So I'll put that in the paper.
So, I offer his motion, is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then that's all I had. We got through a lot, I'm still talking, which is good. We now would open up any thoughts or ideas from the board that we didn't touch on tonight. Look forward to another 4 years, and hopefully I can keep talking and keep things moving ahead. Do you allow champagne at board meetings? I don't know.
Water for everybody.
But as is our routine and requirement, we'd ask for any public comment other than the earlier public comment. Do you have your microphone still? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Was there a fire report this month? Yeah.
They didn't bring it in, and, but to their credit, they have been good. We got one every month without fail. I don't know what happened tonight, but,
I forgot.
yeah. They're,
Okay, that's all.
yeah, okay. Are we working with them?
We missed Father Fred tonight doing his thing, right?
Yeah. One thing we did in the budget was, they have that 100th anniversary coming up, which is huge in the scheme of fire companies and so forth. And we're working with Tivoli and Red Hook to do something here, and we're helping file Perm 33C. You might know it, it's a DOT rule, because they've invited 75 fire companies, which we've talked about, and right now they have 40 responders. It's gonna be a monster parade, so trying to figure out how to put all that together. But we, the town is helping with some finances, and we put another $1,000 in our celebration line. We'd say we would buy the music for their event that night. And I reached out to Firehouse Productions, kind of aptly named, right? And they said they would throw some sound up for us at no cost, so the firemen seem like their preference is country rock, country kind of bands, so it's a Saturday night fireworks and good sound and local, quasi-local bands, but it'll be hopefully no rain, it's but August 17th. Other than that, I think we're done. Anybody else have anything? We circulated vouchers somewhere. I'd ask you all sign off on those. I went through them. We had one or two questions, but they're more internal. Some of it was the fuel use at that old highway garage. We got to work on that. I think we're moving, what do we have, 6 weeks out to the end of the fiscal year. Therefore, I would move that we pay bills after audit. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. K, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Hit it, baby.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good job.
Wow, a lot of stuff.
Getting the hang of it finally.